So may I request Juma to sing the first, second, and third.
First, second, and third. Okay. So till Jnananjana Vikshane Moha Jaye.
Yes. That is the second verse.
Or till the third, also the third one. Okay. Khandana bhava bandhana jaga vandana vandito mai niranjana nararupadhara niranjana nararupa dhara nirguna gunamai mochanagha dushana jaga bhushana chedghana kai Jnananjana Vimalanayana Jnananjana Vimalanayana Vikshane Mohajai Bhasvara Bhava Sagar Cheda Unmada Prema Pathar Bhaktarjana Yugala Charana Bhaktarjana Yugala Charana Tarana Bhavapa.
Thank you, Juma. So in the last 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we saw the beginning of the Aratrika Stotram, as you call it, the hymn of Vesper service. This was recorded or written by Swami Vivekananda himself, and then this is being sung in every ashram in the evening arati. So today we shall go to the third verse, because we have studied the first 2 verses and we are beginning with the third verse. As it was sung, the words are Bhaswara, Bhava Sagara, Chira Unmada, Prema Pathar, Bhaktarjana, Yugala Charana, Tarana, Bhavapara. So these are the words. In this verse, in 2 places, there is a combination of words, and the rest of them are single word. So what are the word meanings? Let us first see. Bhaswara. Bhaswara means resplendent, bright. Bhaswara. Oh, you the bright one. Then bhava. Bhava means emotions. Sagara means ocean. So ocean of emotions. Bhava Sagara. Chira. Chira means always or ever, always. Unmada, mad with. That is called Unmada. Prema. Prema means love, the divine love, spiritual love. Pathar. Pathar means sea. So a sea of divine love. In the second sentence, 2 words are there, they are combination. Bhaktarjana and Yugala Charana, they are combined words. So how do you divide it? Bhakta Arjana is Bhaktarjana. Bhakta means devotee. Arjana means obtained, got it. Arjana. So Bhakta Arjana. Then Yugala Charana. Yugala, Charana. Charana means feet. Yugala means dual, two. So both feet, that is called Yugala Charana, 2 feet. Tarana, Tarana means crossover. Cross, Tarana means cross, crossing. Crossing over, that is called Para. Para means the other side. So the par, the other side of the ocean, you are crossing over. So what is that ocean? That ocean is called Bhava. Bhava means samsara. Samsaram is Bhava. So Bhava means that which is born. So where we are born. So this is Bhava, Para. That means beyond the samsara, beyond the Bhava, beyond Bhava is also equivalent to Mrityu, because it's a birth. So birth and death goes together. So it's called Mrityu also. So this Mrityu Pare, that is outside, that is beyond the birth and death, is called Bhava Par. So let us go to the general meaning of this verse. If you see that, Swamiji is addressing Sri Ramakrishna. So when he addresses, he uses those terms by which he is very familiar with. So he says, Bhaswara, say, oh effulgent one, oh resplendent one. He says, Bhava Sagara, the ocean of emotions. Here only we are finding very interesting ideas are coming, because this Bhaswara can be taken as independently a single adjective Sri Ramakrishna. O thou resplendent one. We can bring the meaning. Also, the Bhaswara can be added with the Bhava. For instance, Sagara is this, thou art the ocean. So, Bhaswara, Bhava, Sagara is thou art the ocean. So, what ocean? Oceans of emotions. So, Bhava Sagara. So, if you find in Sri Ramakrishna's life, there are plenty of emotions you can find. These emotional moments in the gospel itself we find. Somebody is coming and talking to him about Hari, and somebody is coming and dancing, and immediately Sri Ramakrishna gets up and he also starts dancing with them. And then somebody comes and talks about high philosophy, say Vedanta, who is I, etc. He talks. And while talking itself, he goes into samadhi. He loses his I. So different types of people come to him with emotions, and different type of emotions he is expressing. Now now how many of our emotions he is telling or he is expressing? How can you count? Even if you count from the gospel, 1, 2, 3, 4, say 50, 60, or 200, or even 2000 you count. But then there are many emotions which he has expressed. Say for his intimate people, how he expressed his love. Something wonderful. Or even say you take everybody, even from Mother Sarada, if you start with everyone, how he showed his love for attachment to them, and his self-control. That is also an emotion. How he expressed that, and then renunciation, faith, peace. Like that, you can go on accumulating one by one. So instead of telling that number of emotions, instead of telling these are the emotions, what Swamiji says, he is the ocean of emotions. So if you say ocean, it shows the vastness. That means unnumbered. You cannot count what are the emotions of Sri Ramakrishna. That is what he means. So he says ocean of emotions. That's very beautiful word. But then emotions are of two types. One is Satvika type, then Tamasika type also is there, and Rajasika type also is there. So the emotions can be of any types. In Sri Ramakrishna, what we find is the highest Satvika type emotions we find. So Sattva is always associated with brightness, with light. So this Bhaswara can be added to Bhava also. That means, hey Sri Ramakrishna, thou art ocean of resplendent emotions, or the pure emotions, because the whiteness stands for purity. The light stands for purity. So the pure emotions, so the bad emotions are avoided now. In that way also, we can try to understand that. The bad emotions are not there. So devotees of various types came to him and they flocked and then they sat around him. And then he gave to each devotee to pick up any type of emotion from him. See, that was given to the devotees could see. Like M. Mahendranath Gupta, when he used to go to different times, he could see Sri Ramakrishna in different moods. So that is called bhava. What is bhava? Bhava is called mood. So a person of different moods was there, and M could take up what mood that he liked. Because Sri Ramakrishna was ocean of emotions. So this Bhaswara and Bhavasagara can be independently treated or it can be together also. That idea we get here. Now, next we go to Chira Unmada. This Chira Unmada is very interesting term that he uses because the Unmad means mad. A madman is called Unmada. So he was mad. This mad adjective was given to Sri Ramakrishna long back, before Narayan came to him. Long back when he was even practicing his austerities in Dakshineswar, he was called a mad Bamu. Pagal Bamu, he was called. So that name was there. So Swamiji brings out the same term that people used not knowing he was a Paramahansa. But Swamiji knows that he is a Paramahansa. But he is using the same word, mad. Does that connotes the same meaning of the madness that ordinary people called him? No. So the different type of madness which Swamiji saw in him and other disciples saw in him, that is what he's indicating here. Not the pre-Paramahansa stage of madness or before that, what people thought he is mad. No, not that madness. So the mad for God, that is what here indicating. So this madness, was it came after he came to Dakshineswar or after he became Paramahansa? After the devotees started coming to him, was he exhibiting the madness? Said no. This madness was from his birth. So forever it was there. So it is not temporary madness that Sri Ramakrishna had. To indicate that, he uses an adjective chira. Chira means always, forever. So chira. And also, if you see our chira unmada, yes. And this chira unmada, there are many, many incidents that we find in his life that where he acted like a madman, which any normal man would see that it is a madness. For instance, during his puja, he took all the flowers on his head, and then sometimes he would dance on the steps of the Dakshineswar temple. He would dance. People are thinking he's dancing all alone like a madman. But he says, Mother Kali used to come down the steps. I used to hold her hand, and then we too used to dance there. Now, this was not seen by others. So they could see that he is a madman dancing there. And even complaints went to the Rani Rasmani, who was in charge or who was the owner of this temple. One day she came to Dakshineswar to verify, was he really mad? But then he received her very nicely, and then puja started, and he was sitting there, and she was looking, and she said, Choto Bamun, she used to call Choto Bamun. So she used to call him because his brother was the Bodo Bamun. And then when brother resigned the job was given to Choto Bamun. So she is telling Shuttabaman, can you not sing some songs, please? So she is requesting. And then he starts singing. While singing, his eyes are fixed on Mother Kali. And suddenly he turned to Rani Rasmani. Immediately, all her ideas in the brain were reflected in his brain. He could see internally what she is feeling. And then he did not stop there. He got up, went near her, and gave a good slap. Now, to give to Rani, the owner of the temple, a slap by a pujari, that cannot be, tolerated. So the employees of Rani, they were all standing there. The bodyguards were there, and they all went to pounce upon Ramakrishna to give him a good beating. But Rani Rasmani stopped them. Don't touch him, she said. And then she came to Sri Ramakrishna. Baba, she used to call him Baba, How did you understand? Ramakrishna smiled. What she was thinking? She was thinking about her cases, the legal cases that are going on, all those, she said, if you have property, you must get into some problem. And the problems are enormous. Those who have got large property like zamindars, they know how many problems are there. So some cases that she had big property, not only Dakshineswar, in different other places also she had property. So there are a lot of problems are there, legal cases are going on, and she's thinking, sitting before Mother Kali. So that was not proper. So Sri Ramakrishna gives this as an example in one of his teachings. He says, people are mad for their wife, for the children, for the money, for the wealth, for the property, etc. How many people can shed tears for Lord? He's asking. So this madness, okay, the madness for everything. If you say that Sri Ramakrishna is mad with God, then somebody is mad with something else. So in that case, the whole world is full of mad people. So, but then we are all mad for some time. So we may be mad with our spouses for some time, but sometimes we don't even, we go for divorce. Where is your madness gone at that time? So like that property, like that your own people. So like that, this sort of temporarily madness come and it goes also. But this is a type of madness which is forever from his childhood onwards, from his birth, madness. So that's called Chira Unmada. This is a beautiful term, Chira Unmada. This divine madness is an eternal companion. You can say that. For all the time, till he is leaving the body, it was there. Till final departure, it was there. So, yes. So let us go to the next one. Next is Prema Pathar. This Pathar means sea. See, there is, in English also we use the word ocean and sea. Exactly, I do not know in English what is the difference between ocean and sea. Most of the times we look at and then we say, oh, we have come near the seashore, like that we say. And sometimes we say there is an ocean here, let us go to the ocean, like that we go see. So we use both the words, I think, interchangeably. So in Sanskrit also there are many interchangeable words. So if you see English thesaurus, for one word they'll give 10 words. They're all interchangeable. You can put this word, that word, like that. I was very fond of this thesaurus.
Like ocean is the bigger of the Mahasamudra thing and sea is the Samudra.
সমুদ্র মধ্যে মহাসমুদ্র বলে আছে নাকি?
মহাসমুদ্র
কোনটা ছোট সমুদ্র?
যেগুলোর ভেতরের দে কানেক্ট ওই রকম ভাবে সফট হার্ড বাউন্ডারি নেই, কিন্তু লাইক আটলান্টিক ওশান, প্যাসিফিক ওশান, দে আর অল কল্ড ওশান, দে আর নট কল্ড সি।
আচ্ছা, oh, they are not called sea. Okay, yes. So that means the Black Sea, you say, and the Irish Sea, these are all smaller. Smaller in size. At least the three size that will be smaller. Of course, one side is always mixing with the ocean, but the three sides are giving the boundary line. Okay,
Maharaj, seas are normally landlocked. They're surrounded by land.
That's what I'm telling. The three sides of the waters, there's a lands are there, boundary is there. So it is landlocked sea. And then if it is, you don't find any land, that means no horizon is felt. So you can't see anything. So that is called ocean. So here we first he uses the ocean of Bhava Sagara. Is a used to use the word Sagar, ocean of emotions, other resplendent pure emotions. And here he uses that Prema Patha, sea of love. This also you see, perhaps the sea uses the word Patha because it is landlocked. That means it has got a boundary. This Prema also, it must have some boundary, you see. Otherwise, how you will love something which has got no form, which has got no name. So I'm loving Mount Himalayas means the Himalayas figure comes to me. I'm loving my spouse means spouse form is next to me. I love my children means the children are known to me. So the infinite has taken these different forms. So you can say the sea is also very apt in using for the love. So that love connection, that emotion, that he uses the Prema Patha. So it is seen in his life that whoever comes to him gets attracted. For instance, we see that how people like Yam also came to him. When Mahendranath Gupta came to him, he went back. And he says, in the home, in the whole night, he was thinking about him only. Only one time he saw. And then he's thinking about Sri Ramakrishna. Again, when shall I go to Dakshineswar and meet him? It is not for one person. There are many people we see, in their lives we see that they are thinking. Even Gaurima's life you see. Gaurima was not very fond of Ramakrishna initially. So she said to Balram, said, no, I am not interested. I have seen many sadhus and saints, etc. Wherever I have gone. And she has gone around in that young age, 20, 25-year-old girl, unmarried. She went out as a monk, as a sannyasini. She went out to Kashi, Rameshwaram, not Rameshwaram, Kashi, Vrindavan, Ayodhya, etc. And when Balram says, you see, there is a Paramahamsa in Dakshineswar, I will take you, come. She says, no, I am not interested in seeing any of them. So she only heard about him, but she never saw. But then one day she had a feeling that somebody is calling her and somebody is pulling her. She felt very strange experience. And then she's telling Balram, okay, let us go to Dakshineswar. And then she goes to Dakshineswar. And when she enters Sri Ramakrishna's room, Sri Ramakrishna is pulling a thread, and he's putting down like that. And then he says, oh, you come, sit, be seated. As if he knows her long back. So the pull of Sri Ramakrishna is so much. And they come, everyone is attracted. You see, Sri Ramakrishna himself says to Yam, you see, peacocks, at a particular time, you give them opium. And when they take opium, are finished. And they will come exactly at that time. You can see the birds also. If you feed the birds at 7 o'clock and 5 minutes before 7, they all will be there at your door, at your windows, and you can see them. So some hard nuts, which I cannot bite, So I keep it for 1 or 2 birds. And in my window also I keep. So 1 or 2 birds come and sit and take it. So at the right time. So every creature has got the time consciousness, So if I am loved by somebody at a particular place, particular time, then I would like to go and meet him. Some people say, one Swami, I met him in Vrindavan. He says, so I said, how are you, etc. I asked him. Then he said, he's an outside order only. So we used to talk generally. And then I asked him, went to his ashram. I said, how many people come here? I asked him. He said, very rarely people come to me. I said, why? He said, because I'm very strict, I don't talk to people. So if you don't show your love to people, how do you expect people can come? So he was just telling me, no people come to us like that. I said, then I told him, you see, you are a young Swami. you must understand the emotions of the people. When the people come to you and make pranam to you, you should not turn your face and go away. You should look at them, talk to them, how are you, etc. You must ask. Kushala prashna, as you could say. So this kushala prashna has to be kushal. Are you kushal? Are you well? You have to ask. And that's how this love, when they see that you are loving them, then they'll come. See how people from far off places, from Dhaka, etc., people used to come to Belur Math in search of Premanandaji. They have heard about him. A very loving sadhu is there in Belur Math. So let us go and meet him. And exactly, while coming, train is late, bus is late, and then they have to walk a few kilometers, and then they reach Belur Math at 3 o'clock or after 3 o'clock. The bhandar is closed. All people have taken food, and they are on resting time. And some brahmachari comes and tells Premanandaji, Maharaj, a few people have come, about 25, 30 people have come. He says, go, open the kitchen now. And said, what to do there? There's nothing. He said, no, let us cook. He himself goes and starts cooking and asks the brahmachari to complete it, and he comes and meets them and makes them seated. And he asked, did you eat anything? He said, no, we are coming to Math, so we didn't eat anything. They wait. In half an hour time, you'll be fed. And he fed khichdi for all of them. You see, at 3:30, opening the kitchen, and he instructed the brahmachari to cook. So this is called love. So whenever any person goes to ashram, that's why in Ramakrishna tradition, we keep the prasad packet, in big centers. It's not possible to open the office at the wrong hours, So we keep the baskets of prasad, put the prasad in that and keep it. So when people come, you can give them. If you come before the bell goes, as is a habit in our ashrams. So we have started in Ireland also. We have got a small bowl, and Swami Purnanandaji takes it, and then dung, like that he places it. So before the bell goes, if anybody comes, then you must invite him also for lunch. So some devotees who bring lunch for us, we two Swamis only are there. So they bring lunch. I sometimes ask them, why you bring so much? Said, Maharaj, sometimes devotees come here and they'll be sitting. You can't exclude them. They also should be fed. So we bring always a little more. We bring. There's nothing wrong in that. If you eat, otherwise we'll take back. No problem. So that is, you see, adjustment. How their mind works, you see, that let us take for someone who is extra also. This is called expressing your love. And Sri Ramakrishna's place, you said, when women came like that not eating, Sri Ramakrishna, you take them to task. I don't like women coming in empty stomach, he says. Some eat something and come. So that is how Sri Ramakrishna showed his love. So Prema Patha. And he came, think of even Narendra. Vivekananda, when he was a young boy, for 1 whole month, Sri Ramakrishna refused to see him. He did not look at him. He did not talk to him. And almost every day, Naren goes to Dakshineswar and sits there. And Ramakrishna is very lovingly and joyfully speaking to others, even to the other boys, but not to Naren. So 1 month over. Then one day he called Naren to himself and then asked, Naren, I don't look at you. I don't see you. Why you are coming? He said, whatever you do, I am not caring. But I love you because I know you love me. So Swamiji says, capital letters I write, capital L, capital O, capital V, capital E. And that is personified into Sri Ramakrishna. Love personified. I do not know anybody has told like that before, anyone, about anybody else. This capital letters, he says, and that type of love is that we see how wonderfully Sri Ramakrishna shows. And that's why that type of loving soul, Prema Patar, is sea of love and the ocean of good bhava, that is good thoughts, good moods. Hey Sri Ramakrishna, it is not at all surprising that bhaktas, the devotees, are attracted to you. You have such wonderful qualities, infinite qualities, the ocean of qualities. So people are not at all, I am not surprised that people can come to you. Why? That's why Bhakta Arjana. So here you see what a beautiful words are used. Bhakta Arjuna. Arjan means earning. Earning, to get it, obtaining. All these meanings are there. So Bhakta Arjana. Bhakta is earning something, getting something. What is that he is getting? He is getting Yugala Charana. That is 2 feet. So when you worship God, even imagine God, you should never think of 1 foot. Though the Lord, in his Vamana avatar, in his dwarf form, he stood by 1 foot. And another foot he put it out. So 1 foot he stood. But then that foot cannot be worshipped. You require 2 feet. Because to take refuge at his feet, 2 feet are required. Small babies or children, say 2 years, 3 years children, sometimes I used to play with them, When I'm sitting, I used to make them stand on my feet. And I raise the feet and bring the feet. Then the child goes up and down, goes up and down. It's very joyful for them. So you require 2 feet. Try with 1 foot. The child's 2 feet cannot stand on 1 foot. So you require 2 feet. The same way in God's also, we are so sinful people. We have got so many things, accumulated karmas are there. And with that so heavy we are. So Lord also cannot take with 1 foot. So he requires 2 feet. So Yugala Charana, Sri Guru Charana Saroja Raja. Tulsidas says about in Hanuman Chalisa. So like Sri Guru Charana also, it's a Yugala Charana. So you always think of 2 feet. See in our ashram at Durban, just there is a small fencing, like wooden fencing to the altar. And outside the altar, there is a Yugala Charana in marble stone. So it's such a beautiful feat, and it is Sri Ramakrishna's feet. I have seen many devotees used to come there quietly. They come and sit and bring flowers and put the flowers on that. And then they do japa, meditation, etc. So this Yugala Charana is a beautifully made it is. So every day I used to go and touch that feet and put it on my head. As if Sri Ramakrishna's feet is present before you. That's why you will find the devotee's attitude to the feet is something unique. If you go to Holy Mother's place, when Holy Mother had Mahasamadhi, people took lots of prints of her feet. And they are all printed on a cloth. And then many people keep it in their home. And many old devotees' homes, I have seen, they have got it, framed it and kept it. Maharaj, this is original Holy Mother's feet, like that they say to me. I'm really, I used to go and then touch it and on my head. So like that, the feet is very important. And you can see even our President Maharaj, Vice President Maharaj passes on and the feet impression is taken and is given to his initiated devotees. Those who want, they can obtain it. So this feet keeping, remembering the feet is one of the important items. In Tamil literature, there is a book called Tirukkural. This Tirukkural, the first chapter, 10 stanzas in that chapter, 10 verses are there. All the verses are talking about the holy feet of the Lord. He doesn't mention the face or the name of the Lord. He says the original supreme deity, the original, the cause of the causes, as we say, the uncaused, as we say in English, the uncaused. That is the Moola, the Adi. So Adi Bhagavan, he says. That Adi Bhagavan, he doesn't show any form or anything. He only speaks about the feet. That's all, 2 feet. So likewise, in every literature you will find God is worshipped the feet. And they say, if you can, during your meditation, you start with the feet, they say. Once we asked my Gurudev, Srimad Swami Nirvanananji Maharaj, So Maharaj, where to start meditation? Of form. Meditation on form of my beloved deity, my Ishta. From where to start? Because if you keep the picture in front of you or the image in front of you and you put the light is focusing on the face and you close your eyes, immediately what you see, immediately the face will come. Inside you, the face will come, but it will stay for a short time. It will go away. It cannot stay there for long because we have not made that siddhi for staying on that form. So to keep the mind on the form, to practice meditation on the form, so he said, start with the feet. Feet is so important. From the feet, you raise your mind. You straight, so then imagine up to the head. So the feet is very important. That's why Yugala Charana. But this Yugala Charana has got some work to do. See, it is not because I am loving you and I have great faith in you and I keep my devotion at your feet. It's not enough. What is necessary, I must know what this feet is going to do for me. So the Bhakta will naturally ask, oh Lord, okay, you tell me that you take refuge at my feet. You say, you always say that, you take refuge at my feet. But then what you are going to give me if I take refuge at your feet, what is the benefit of me? That also Swamiji says, the benefit is Tarana Bhavapara. What I am going to take you? Because with the 3 steps as a Vamana avatar, he measured the entire universe. Bhu, Bhuvaswa, all the 3 worlds, upper world, nether world, and the present Bhumi. All the 3 worlds he measured. And then with the 2, and the third one he said, where do I keep it? Then Mahabali says, put it on my head, he says. So he kept it on his head. Now, that is only one person did not ask for his feet. Only Mahabali we find in the Puranas that over his head, his feet was there. But rest of us, we have to go and take refuge on his feet, over his feet. Then what he does with these feet, he takes a jump over another ocean. And that ocean is called Bhavasagara. Bhavasagara Para. Bhavasagara, that Guru Stotram also starts with Bhavasagara. Juma, you can tell the first line. Bhavasagara. Unmute.
Yes. Yeah. বলছি ভব সাগর তারণ কারণ হে রবি নন্দন বন্দন খণ্ডন হে. Shall I sing that?
Yes.
Oh. ভব সাগর তারণ কারণ হে রবি নন্দন বন্দন খণ্ডন হে শরণাগত কিঙ্কর ভীত মনে গুরুদেব দয়া কর দীন জনে.
Thank you. See, here also, the words are all almost, he has taken from this verse, it seems. Swamiji has used Bhava, Swamiji has used Tarana, okay, and then Para he has used. So all these things are coming. Is it? What is the meaning of this Tarana? Tarana means crossing. So Para means the other side. So he is taking you to the other side. So what is that, this side and the other side? What do we mean by that? You see, as I told you, this hymns explained class is not a lecture of 1 hour, while you will be simply passively sitting and listening to me. I wanted some type of interaction. I want you to also speak. So can anyone attempt to answer What is this going beyond something, this ocean of samsara and being here? So what is here and what is there?
Swamiji, is it cycle of birth and death?
Yes.
And
Cycle
the
of
other
birth and death.
is on this side, and on the other side
No,
it is
this side means what? What do you
uh,
say this side?
before the crossing ocean, before crossing the ocean.
So what is that side? What does it indicate?
Cycle of birth and death,
Cycle of birth and death. And that side means?
immortality,
Immortal.
Satchidananda.
Very good. Thank you, Gaurav. You
Thank
rightly pointed out. Yes. This side means this birth and death. Birth, suffering, and then death. After death, that also doesn't stop. After death, rebirth. So 4 types of functions you feel. This what you call the cycle. The cycle has got 4 phases. So first phase is birth, and then suffering, and then after suffering, death, then rebirth. So this cycle goes on and on and on. So it is because it is limitless, it is endless, as it were. So we are feeling very fearful. This idea comes much later to those jivas who have experienced this birth and death constantly, every time. We are all having, but still our mind is going for the new birth because we are initiating karmas, and the karmas are left unfulfilled. And those unfulfilled karmas are waiting to come upon us, and it doesn't get the opportunity in this birth. So I am waiting now, and the karma phalas are waiting, and then they are waiting for the next birth. So when I take the next birth, they are ready, they are very happy. So now we can go and attack this fellow. So they will come to us. So this cycle goes on. So a time comes in a life of an individual, he starts thinking, what is I am doing? What is the purpose of this life? Why I am doing this birth and death all the time? Can I stop this cycle? Since it is endless, it is always compared with Bhavasagara. But then it is giving fear to us. This fear that how can I cross a ocean? Simply I am left on the shore of the ocean and asked, go and cross this ocean. Will it be possible for me to cross the ocean? No. I require a ship. And that ship is that Partha. In Krishna's in Gita, before Krishna, the Gita reading, we always study the Gita Dhyana Shlokas. So in that Dhyana Shloka, it says, it's a huge river, and where crocodiles are there, they will come and catch you. And it has got even many storms are there. They come into the waters, and the water you cannot cross. And in that only, that Keshava, Kaivartaka Keshava, it ends like that. So Kaivartaka means the boatman. Who is going to take the boat? The Kaivartaka comes, and he is the boatman, and in that boat you get into, then you will cross all the challenges, all the difficulties, and get into that other side. Other side means immortality, where you don't have the birth and death. The birth and death ceases forever. You have that's what immortality, we say that. So we see that. So what Bhakta Arjuna, here you find this, what is the Bhakta is getting? He is getting the 2 feet Yugala Charana for the purpose is to going beyond this Sansara, Bhava Sagara. But then it is huge. I am standing before the ocean of samsara, and I am finding it is not possible for me to come over or cross over. So to give us that faith and also to make it easy, he goes on. He goes on to if you come to the last place where he says, this Bhavasagara, which is endless, appears to be huge and vast, becomes a small puddle of water that is at water staying in the puddle. What is this puddle? Puddle means a small pit where the water stays. And what is the size of it? A cow puts his foot and then takes out from the mud what is the impression it creates in that mud? A small pot like. And there is a pool of water there lying there. And how easily even a child can cross. Like that, this huge, vast samsara becomes so small. So he gives us at that place that don't worry, it is, if you believe in Sri Ramakrishna, or if you believe in any deity, any God, you will be crossing the ocean of samsara. You will not perish in the ocean. Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Name Bhakta Pranashyati. My devotee will never perish. He's always protected. Yes?
Kamal and Keshri, they've raised their hand, Maharaj.
Okay.
Maharaj, just a question
Yes.
for some clarity.
Yes.
On this third sutra, is it a sutra, Maharaj? I think that maybe it's a bit longer than a sutra, but in the third verse, Swami Vivekananda uses the ocean metaphor for two things. In one case, it's for this ocean of lofty spiritual sentiments, and in the other, the ocean of samsara. Why? How come Swamiji chose to use the same metaphor, but in two very different contexts here?
Yes, because in both the things you find there is some similarity. Sri Ramakrishna's emotions or bhava, or the moods, are infinite. That means you cannot count them. The same way, his love for the people, love for the others in this universe, with everything, that was also infinite. And also, then the samsara also is infinite. That means endless. So the same analogy can be used for different contexts, of course. Different contexts, though, it doesn't matter. That's what I feel. You have any other thinking?
Oh, I was wondering, Maharaj, because we are in the samsara, but we are aspiring for this ocean of Satchitananda.
Yes.
That he wanted us to feel as though we are in both places at the same time. In one case, what we are aspiring for is on the other. It is a difficult one to. That was just something I had in mind, Maharaj.
Yes, that's true. See, he said that the par means the other side means the immortality, and that is ocean of Satchidananda. Definitely, you see, wherever limitless concept comes, wherever endless concept comes, you can easily use this analogy of ocean. Yes. So there is nothing wrong in that. So what I was telling, so
thank you.
So I was trying to tell you that the bhakta is never perishes because he is protected by the Lord. So there is a beautiful in Bible sentences there of Jesus, John, say it is 3.16, very beautifully says, for God so loved the world. See, God loves the world as Sri Ramakrishna loved this world. He loved everyone. You can interpret. So God so loved the world that he gave his one and only son. Okay. But then what happens that the second phase of this phrase of this sentence, you see, that whoever believes in him shall not perish. Whoever believes in him. Name Bhakta Pranashyati. If you take refuge in me, my devotee never perishes. And another word is added, but then what will have? But have eternal life, which Gaurav pointed out, immortality. The other side is immortality. As you say, the ocean of Satchidananda. So there only we go. So it's such a beautiful concept, you see, that if you take refuge in Lord, Lord comes to you and he makes you cross over this ocean of samsara by his infinite love. That is also ocean of love. So you can see that how beautifully Sri Ramakrishna's nature has been explained to us. You see why these things are necessary for us to understand in depth or to think in depth, because we are all devotees of Sri Ramakrishna, And sometimes we sit, we do japa of the mantra, and then we enter into meditation. So the guna dhyana, it is called. The nature of meditation will be thinking of the gunas, of the qualities. So this is called guna dhyana. And there is another type of dhyana, is there rupa dhyana. That is a form dhyana. You can think of, you can imagine like that. You can, another type of dhyana is there which is very easiest for us. Rupa dhyana is the middle stage, I tell you. The primary stage is there, which is the, compared to this rupa dhyana, guna dhyana is different, is difficult. But below that, the primary stage, there is one type of dhyana is there, and that is called charitra dhyana. This charitra dhyana means incidents in his life. You know, sometimes I sit in my meditation, and my mind is not going to the level of meditation. It is very, turbulent. It doesn't want to think anything. So I do little japa. Once the mind comes under the control after doing japa, then I do charitra dhyana. What I do in charitra dhyana? I think of Baranagar days. What did Swamiji do in that place, in that small mutt? It is a dilapidated house. I imagine the dilapidated because I've seen that house. So it's a dilapidated house. And there you'll find people are, only these boys are there, young boys have come, and they don't have second cloth to put on. With one cloth, if any visitor comes, that particular monk only will go with that cloth putting on. The rest of them are inside with the kaupin. That was the stage. And then food was there. Whatever food comes, that is what they are eating. So they don't have much food also. So with these things, the struggles of the mutt, at the time you think of. Then what happens? Immediately you compare to the present stage of development. Where I am now? I seem to be in a very lavishly in a 5-star hotel I'm staying now. Likewise, you got a good house, you got a heating facility, you got everything, and the food comes straight from outside. You don't need to worry about the food. So much facilities have come. Why? It is because of their tapasya. So should we not lead a tapasya life, a life of tapasya? It comes immediately into the mind, It regenerates the idea of viveka and vairagya in your life. So you take another dimension. This is a renunciation, one dimension. You take another dimension of Premananji's love of the devotees, how he fed them in Belur Math. You just think. So these are all called charitra dhyana. Take the incidents and go on thinking. Because you have studied those incidents or you have heard these incidents, why don't you repeat in your mind? By repeating in your mind, your mind is getting steady. The mind will not jump from one object to another object. And this type of putting the mind together, this type of dhyana is very necessary. As I told you, the third type of dhyana, the guna dhyana, is really difficult. Many people have told me, Maharaj, we are unable to get into this dhyana. I said, one easy way to do guna dhyana is, if you know the guna, if you think of the guna, say for instance, here, what he says, bhava sagara, one guna, the ocean of moods. Like that you think, then think at that time some incidents relating to the bhava. So when you think he was chira unmada, he was ever mad for God. If you think like that, then in this idea, how do you bring it? You attach to the charitra. Think of Sri Ramakrishna, how he took the kadag hanging over the head of Mother Kali, and he took it in his hand and he wanted to sever his head. That extreme love for God. I must see Mother Kali, he thought. And what is the use of keeping this life without having a darshan, without having a vision of God? So when you think this, the Chira Unmada gets exemplified in your mind. And then slowly, this Charitra will just fade out and the quality alone will come. So this you can experiment with this. So the Guna Dhyana is a difficult. But then the difficulty also can be removed with this method of attaching the Charitra at that time. Then slowly we can improve our the quality of meditation. Otherwise, every day we sit together, our age is increasing, and you know that what life is taking, and you are seeing all around what is happening and what is the effect of this terrible virus that came into this society. Every nation, every country, and millions of people are dying, we are seeing, and millions of people are getting infected. With all these things, you understand that there is nothing to be attained. If at all you have to be attained, only what arjan we should have. I have seen the arjan of different items in my life. No, these are not going to stay with me. These are not going to come with me. When I leave the body, except my karma phalas, the fruits of actions, nothing is going to come with me. So once you know this, then slowly you will develop detachment. So there is nothing wrong in getting wealth or in making association with the people, etc., loving people, etc. There's nothing wrong. But slowly, in our mind, internally, we have to develop the detachment. Unless the detachment comes or we develop it, we cannot put our mind onto the Yugala Charana. The 2 feet we cannot put our mind. I tell you, many people ask this question in our meditation workshop and retreat, etc. My mind is not getting concentrated on God. The simple reason is the mind is sitting on something else. So from that, to take it to the other side, Bhavapar, again, His grace is required. And so that's why we have to think in multi-dimensionally, the problem has to be attacked. Then only there will be some solution for us. Because we are all at different temperaments, at different levels of existence. So we require different types of sadhanas, sadhana kriyas. Yesterday I was talking to one gentleman and he rang up and then he wanted to consult me on some great problem of him. What was the problem? He says, I don't understand a particular method of worship. See, my mind is a computer type mind. I am an IT man. I require specifically telling me that do this. If you show me that, okay, you can do this, you can do that also, then that will not work. One doctor was there, I met him, and then I went to him for treatment. And then I said, I am having like this, should I take a paracetamol? Oh yes, you can take paracetamol, he said. And sometimes I get a headache, should I take aspirin? Okay, you can take aspirin. I said, what type of doctor is he? You must tell me exactly what medicine I should take. My mind also is very specific. You must tell me exactly. So if you tell me exactly, no, you will not take paracetamol, you take only aspirin, I'm happy with that. Because you are given a specific instruction. So like that, there are devotees who, if you say that you can do this also, you can do that also, you can be this, that, etc., they get confused. So they want specific instruction. So specific instruction is this, that then I explained to him, okay, when I meet you sometime in September, so he's supposed to meet me. So at that time, I will give you the specific instruction, I said. So you see, that also you cannot tell on telephone. You have to sit with him and see his mood, his features, and then only you can say the specific. So you'll always find it, Sri Swamiji, when he speaks about Sri Ramakrishna, is very specific. Though he himself admits, whatever he says, that does not exclusively limit Sri Ramakrishna to that only. That those things he will say later. You'll find it, how Sri Ramakrishna's image is created in our minds by Swamiji. So Swamiji he goes to that extent of telling that Sri Ramakrishna is beyond the grasp of mind and words, he says. He will say in the last, how he is beyond that. And now we are trying to catch him, grasp him in certain concepts. And that is only help to our meditation. So we shall proceed next week further. The fourth verse will be taken up next week. Any question or anything? Any clarification?
No, just a question, Maharaj. If you,
Yes.
if we look at the Aarti of Sri Ramakrishna,
Yes.
which of those three dhyanas would you say predominates?
Which of them?
The Swamiji mentioned three different dhyanas,
Yes.
the Charitra, Rupa, and Guna.
Yes.
So Swami Vivekananda wrote this hymn to Sri
Yeah.
Ramakrishna. So which of the three gunas, or which of the three dhyanas was he wanting to come through the strongest here?
The strongest. I would not say strongest because I have the feeling that the hymn was written by Swami Vivekananda not to satisfy his own self of worshipping Sri Ramakrishna, but for the entire humanity. So in the humanity means you will find multi types of people are there. So everyone can take something from this. You draw from this hymn what is important to you or what is your tendency admits it. That you draw. So you are given full freedom to accept certain concepts, reject certain concepts which you find you are comfortable with. So because each one has got a different tendency. So if I am a bhakta, I will choose certain qualities which is Ramakrishna, he says, Swamiji says, those qualities which are conducive for my bhakti concept. So if you are a jnani, you can use such. And if you are a karmi, even karma kator, he uses the word. Sri Ramakrishna is karma kator. When we come to that, we will see how karma yogins also can take Sri Ramakrishna as their ideal. So to each, according to his might.
Thank
Yes,
you, Maharaj.
Gaurav?
Swamiji, can you please help by pointing few qualities for Guna Dhyana? For example, Kamini Kanchana, then he wouldn't touch money, and all this can be gunas in your opinion?
Yes, yes. See that renunciation, as you say, vairagya, that is one. I'm giving you 2 or 4.
Yes,
See,
please.
faith in God and faith in Guru Vakya. How much faith he put it on Totapuri, on the Bhairavi Brahmani, and she said, okay. When Totapuri said, come and sit, my boy, he came and sat, and then he obeyed him. So the faith in Guru Vakya is very important, I consider. Then self-control.
Swamiji, sorry, in that faith in Guru Vakya, the Mantra Diksha Guru in that sense.
Yes.
Mantra
And then
Diksha.
who guided him also.
Okay.
And then self-control, then forbearance. Think of forbearance, there are so many indications of that. Then intense desire for illumination. That is also one of the guna you can think of. So, and then when the disciples came to him and the other devotees come to him, how he treated them, how he loved them, how and what all he did to them, is a great thing. No? If your aptitude is that, think of gunas, then you can take up that dhyana. I have got a question from one devotee, the devotee is very much interested in having meditation on Holy Mother. He wrote to me, Maharaj, will you please tell me how to meditate on Holy Mother? I did not get time to write down. I will write down now and send him. So, see, this is the way that we do, as Swamiji has done for Sri Ramakrishna. And that also Holy Mother meditation we will be taking up when we take up Prakritim Paramam. At that time, we will discuss about how to meditate on Holy Mother. Yes.
So Swamiji, and
this lady wants to ask, who is Subhash iPad?
Pranam,
Tell your name.
This is really Shubhra from Virginia.
Okay, Virginia. Okay, tell me.
Yes, Maharaj. I just wanted to say to Gaurav's question, there is
Yes.
a book that Swami Chaitanananda ji wrote, See God
Yes.
with Open Eyes. And in that book, he mentioned like one whole chapter
Hmm.
on how you can meditate on Sri Ramakrishna. There are different aspects, and
Yes.
he explained on every like as if like he's sitting in Panchavati doing his sadhana. So you can meditate on that, and on his ear, on his eyes, on his mouth. I mean, all part of his body.
Yes.
So he had like one whole chapter explaining how to meditate on Thakur.
Yes. Thank you, Shubhra. And
Yeah.
Gaurav, please note down that book. If it is available in our ashram library, you can get it.
Yes,
Yeah.
Swamiji. Thank you so much. I noted
What is
down.
the title of the book, you said?
Seeing
See
God
God
with open eyes.
Yes.
open eyes.
Seeing God with open eyes. Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, Swamiji, sorry, other small things, Swamiji. When we do Guna Dhyana, the Rupa can also be visualized, isn't it? So it can go together with
Yes, yes, definitely. You can, there is no, what you call distinct compartmentally divided it is. You can merge anything. Whatever is conducive for your bringing your mind under control and concentrate on Sri Ramakrishna, you can use that. That's why in Ramakrishna tradition, we do not tell you avoid this, avoid that, etc. Because we say that you can choose anything. So even Raja Maharaj used to advise his disciples, see, you are sitting and doing japa. After 10 minutes, you find your mind is not interested in repeating the mantra. So Raja Maharaj says, get up and walk, or sit and take a book and read. Go and take a glass of water and then come back. So all these things he says. In certain traditions, if you sit for 8:30 minutes and up till 9, you cannot get up. No, it's not like that. So our elders have shown us that whatever conducive to your mind, you can take, but according to the instructions you have received under that. Yes.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. It's so nice to be connected with you.
Thank
And
you. Thank you for attending. Yes. Nice.
just started attending from last week, and
Okay, last week. Okay.
yeah,
Very
like it. But I met you when you came here in our DC center long time back.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I don't remember immediately your face because
No, you remember. We have so many devotees here, but I remember you because your talk was so touching.